Hey everybody, another day, another Best Ball draft, Best Ball Mania VII. We got 92 entries left here for a chance to win $2 million. And today, the goal is to draft Brock Bowers because every day is a good day to draft Brock Bowers. He may just be the key to everything this year, perhaps less so on Best Ball in these tournaments because elite tight ends tend to have poor advance rates. But not everything's about advance rates. It's about having the guys that can win at the end, and elite tight ends can do that for you. But really, Brock Bowers is much more a key to redraft. All right, so we have hopped in to our draft here, waiting for it to fill. It's been a rough start to the day, I gotta say. Just before this, I had a full cup of coffee before we started streaming and spilled it everywhere, all over the desk. Truly a nightmare. One of the worst spills I've ever seen. Some are saying it was the worst spill of all time. That really delayed things. Then I was having trouble with my setup. It's just, new streamer problems. I'm not the greatest with technology, but usually good enough. So it's been a humbling experience to start. But I like to think of that as that wasn't the universe's plan. That wasn't God's plan. I would have been in some bad lobby, and now it gifted me the chance to be in this lobby, to pull the 105, which is prime Brock Bowers territory on the way back after our first pick here. So it was a blessing in disguise. I like to think positively. Life, there's no reason to think negatively unless you're truly looking to acquire negative situations in your life, and I'm not. I'm trying to do well. All right, so we got the 105 here. As you can see, we're using an overlay here. I use the Establish the Run overlay tool. And the dog has started barking. What a time. If you haven't seen these overlay tools before, they are helpful. It's just a nice, helpful caddy to have. Make sure you're keeping everything in line as far as your correlations, your stacks, week 17 opportunities to make those games stack. So I don't always follow it. Of course, you got to be your own man, but it does kind of help keep me in line. Even Tiger Woods had a caddy, so I'm going to use a caddy. Pretty standard start here. Going to go JSN. Very high floor player. I would expect him to take a step back this year in terms of production. Last year was just truly incredible. Clint Kubiak. JSN was the only guy. Torrey Horton went down. Rashid Shaheed wasn't really in the picture yet. So really a perfect storm of opportunity, efficiency, scheme. Perfect storm. So unlikely to happen again, but he should still see a pretty big target share, of course. So he's a safe play. He's a safe pick. And now we try to get Brock Bowers on the way back. Let's see what's going on in the early portion of this draft. Everyone's behaving. People tend to behave on Underdog. You don't get a lot of crazy stuff like you would on other platforms. Shout out Underdog for sponsoring this draft today as well. Use the promo code FORMULA to get a little kickback. So you can see my exposures here. right next to the players' names. See, I've got quite a bit of Saquon, a lot of Hampton, decent amount of Kenneth Walker. Brock Bowers, about 4%. We got to get that up. That's what we're going to try to do today. So this tool also gives you your combo pairing, so you can see who I've paired Jackson Smith and Jigba with in drafts. You can see that I've paired him 16% of the time with Brock Bowers, 0 with Nico Collins, 0 with George Pickens. But look at that. We could get Drake London, or we could get Brock Bowers. For the sake of enjoying our life, we're going to take Brock Bowers. I'll take Drake London there occasionally as well, but London is a typical faller into that range, so I'm going to just keep things balanced and get our glorious king, Brock Bowers. All right, coming around the corner here, a lot of usual suspects in this range. Would be happy to get either Rice or Devontae Smith or Breece Hall. Let's take a look at those combos here. Rice would be nice to get a little combo exposure there with JSN. And otherwise, you can see we've hit Smith, Hall, and Olave plenty together here. So I like to get as many different combinations as I can, because you got to practice humility-based drafting where you don't know what the outcomes are going to be each year. So it looks like it's going to be Breece Hall or Olave. And this is where I like to go Breece Hall. I do have plenty of Breece Hall. I got 25% Breece Hall. Some might say that that's dangerous. Some might say that that's a huge advantage, getting Breece Hall in the mid-third round. Let's take a look here. This guy went 3 RBs to start. Taylor, Henry, Javonte Williams. I would not be taking Javonte Williams in the 3rd round. A lot of ways this can go bad. Seems like there's going to be a little more help alongside him this year. Maybe Jaden Blue takes a step. Sounds like he's having a good start to camp. And Javonte Williams, I think there's a lot of bias towards what he did at the beginning of the season versus what he did at the end. I think that start really sticks with people. A lot of multi-touchdown games. And he could easily do it again. He's set up to be in that same situation. But things don't always go as smoothly, just for variance reasons. So Javonte Williams was a good prospect, dealt with some injuries, came back, and was solid last year, but really not in the same class as guys like Breece Hall. I mean, Kyren Williams, you can argue about the talent as well, but situation and Sean McVay loves him, so. And in one of the best offenses. And the Cowboys should be one of the best offenses as well. But in general, the idea is that Javonte was more of an outlier last year. And I don't like to bet on outliers repeating themselves. So we have our running back, wide receiver, tight end start here. We're well balanced through the start here. We can do anything we want here. I'd like to go receiver ideally. Unlikely we get Wilson back, but Waddle, McLaurin, Burden, all good options here. As the season nears, we're starting to see more guys without badges in the lobby. This shows they don't have as many drafts under their belt. It doesn't mean they're bad players, just means they haven't drafted as much. But usually it does correlate to skill level. And this is a lovely, lovely return here, Jalen Waddle. Big fan of Jalen Waddle this year. Expecting a big bounce back as he becomes the one in Denver, which should be a top offense in the league. They should get a lot of targets his way. He is the joker that Sean Payton has been looking for, as evidenced by the draft capital they gave up to get him, and his general talent, of course. But a lot of people don't like him because he's burned them in the past. You know, everyone loves to bring up the blue tent, and it's reasonable. I mean, I've had Jalen Waddle on a lot of my teams in recent years because I'm a big fan, and that's what he does. He'll go to the injury tent. He'll leave games early, but sometimes he'll come back as well. So try not to lean into that narrative too much. This is a guy that I want to get a good amount of exposure to this year because I think the upside is clearly top 10 upside. You got to remember he was playing alongside Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers of all time. I mean, probably the best receiver of our generation. Him and Devontae were 1 and 2 for years and years. All right, let's get a little Jameson Williams on the way back here. That would be great. I'm not all that into Devontae Adams this year. Judkins is tempting as well. But in general, I like to bet on good offenses in fantasy football, and Judkins is not what you would call in a good situation, arguably the worst situation in Cleveland. Do like the talent, though. I like the player. Todd Monken could do some things for this offense, and if Shedeur takes a year 2 leap or Deshaun Watson somehow beats him out, then there's a lot of upside. But they're reworking the offensive line. I mean, it just looks like another last season for Cleveland until they get their quarterback of the future in next year's draft. Then you got a rookie quarterback to deal with. He might be good, might be bad. So this isn't the year for Judkins, unfortunately. It's probably next year and the next after that. All right, let's check back in on the others here. Tootin's become a staple of the 4-5 turn. Burden and Tootin at the 4-5 turn, not bad. This is a good-looking team right here. Good-looking team. The one spot is a phenomenal place to be this year. You get Gibbs. You get one of these falling receivers at the end. And then it's not always the best as far as the 2-3 turn. You kind of get the leftovers. You'd love to be able to get one of these running backs falling or Bowers all the way back. That doesn't really happen anymore. Happened earlier this summer, but 4-5 turn's a good place to be. You used to get Waddle all the way back, but not anymore. But Tootin, it's a good place to get your second running back with Gibbs. He went love there, but I'm often waiting till the 5 to get my second running back when I have these 1 slots. Because when you have a guy like Gibbs, you're banking on him to fill that spot every week pretty much. Then get your number 2 at the 4-5 turn, and then there's always a couple of guys in between. So I like to go lighter RB builds when I get Gibbs or Bijan. I try to end with 4 and maybe a maximum of 5. And I try not to hammer RB too early once I get that running back. I tend to lean into the receivers, maybe elite tight end. But yeah, not necessary to get so many running backs when you have such a stud. You want to play like you're right. And we're back up on the clock here. Jordan Tyson, the top recommended pick. Would like to get a quarterback in this range, of course, but I think I'll wait on the way back given the fall. I think that's how we're going to play it. We're going to go Tyson here, continue to add to the receiver room. It's too bad Parker Washington went 1 pick before. Big fan of Parker Washington. Actually, it's probably unlikely we get any of these quarterbacks falling because none of these guys have QBs. But, Hurts has a tendency to fall sometimes. But it's no problem if we don't get him because none of our pass catchers are attached to these elite quarterbacks. Smith and Jigba's with Darnold, Waddle with Bo Nix, Williams with Goff, Tyson with Shuck. So we're in good shape here to still stack up these receivers later on in the draft in the 9th, 10th, 11th round. We will not be taking Tony Pollard on the way back. One of the worst clicks on the board, along with Chuba Hubbard. Two of the worst clicks on the board as far as running backs go right now. Quentin Johnston, generally opposed to drafting Quentin Johnston because of his skill level. So I think DK is the play here. Not very sexy, but we're just going to keep... Oh, wait, I wasn't even on the clock. Now we're on the clock. All right. Yeah, we're just going to keep building out this receiver room. It's not a lot of the time where I'm doing this necessarily, but Breece Hall is a guy that's worthy of being a... You could argue he's a 1-2 turn pick this year. There's a lot of uncertainty as far as how that offense is going to function given their poor coaching staff and just because they're the Jets, obviously. So, but betting on talent alone, and it should be an improved situation, probably still capped by the coaching staff. You're not getting one of these young, innovative minds. You're getting Frank Reich and Aaron Glenn. So we're going to need to address this running back room a bit more, of course, as we have fallen a bit behind. But it has given us quite the strong receiver room. That's something I'm happy about, along with Brock Bowers. So we can really just hammer running back whenever the opportunity presents itself, because we don't need to draft a tight end until the very end now. And receiver, I mean, you'll get some late receiver values, but these five, that's a great start. So running back and quarterback will be the priority in these ensuing rounds. Chuba Hubbard's still hanging here. 6 picks past ADP. Really doesn't matter how long he's going to go. A lot of Jonathan Brooks hype right now. And, I mean, Chuba's just not going to do anything for you. All right, looking at both these quarterbacks coming back here, just because they're both falling. They're both ADP values right now. But then I would also be happy to get either one of RJ Harvey or Rico Dowdle or Blake Corum. So we're in a good spot here to get something good on the way back. And you can stack up some of these guys with their weapons later, so you can still make that correlated bet with both their tight ends and then some late receivers like Trey Harris and for the Jags, it'd be Jacoby Myers, Travis Hunter. But, all right, we got a decision to make here. Would be smart to go running back here. Yeah, get him while you can. As much as I would like to add Herbert, I think we're going to let him go. Let's see. He'll thank me for getting Herbert to pair up with Quentin Johnston, but he passes in favor of Sam Laporta. No badge drafter. Typically not sharp, and that would be I would call that a not sharp move to pass up that opportunity there to stack Herbert with that weapon, because you're making the same bet. If you're betting on Quentin Johnston, you're betting on Justin Herbert as well. Maybe he thinks he can push it, given these guys all went these three all have a quarterback, but yeah, it's hard to pass up on big values falling. So I don't think that was his thought. I think he was just trying to fill out his room. Oops. They go Dart. All right. This is probably a range where I will reach for Bo Nix. Would be nice to get Goff on the way back as well, but let's see how these guys... Well, to the right of me, there's a lot of quarterbacks gone, but two teams that need quarterbacks already. So it is playing with fire a little bit here to pass up on these quarterbacks when you get the opportunity. So we're not really missing out on anything here besides Harold Fannin, Jacoby Myers, Ricky Pearsall. We have made our bet on one Steelers pass catcher, so I'm not going to make the bet on the other one and just stack up Bo Nix betting that he has a big year throwing to Jalen Waddle and RJ Harvey, who's a good receiving back. Yeah, Monangai tends to fall pretty often. That's the only time I'll draft him is when he's falling, but he does all the time. So this is a situation where I would entertain Monangai, even though I think he's overpriced. It's really condensed. It's a clear 1-2 with Swift and Monangai, so in one of the best offenses in the league. So I'd be happy to have Monangai on this team to help fill out our B room. Otherwise, after that, you're faced with more risky guys with roles that could change pretty drastically, have a lot lower floors. Gainwell and Rachaad White both. I'd be more interested in Jordan Mason. 8 picks away seems unlikely. Monangai gets all the way back here. But hey, people hate Monangai. There he goes. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Gainwell guy in the world. Unlikely to get a lot of touchdowns on underdog, half-point PPR. Definitely going to lean into Jordan Mason over Kenny Gainwell there. Yeah. Now we have 3 running backs here. We're starting to fill out the RB room a little bit. 1 quarterback, we're going to need to get at least 1 more. Maybe even 2. Probably going to target Mendoza late to pair up with Brock Bowers. So we'll get a second quarterback and plan on getting Mendoza later. Second quarterbacks, lot to choose from. In terms of the Commanders' backfield, I'm a JCM guy. I think he's the best runner. Clearly. We'll see. I mean, Katron Allen could be the better runner, but JCM is the incumbent and has the, he's got the lead as far as that role goes right now, and he goes, so that foils our plan. Might be tempted to go Baker here, just because I think he has a lot more to offer than a lot of these later quarterbacks. Going to be a lot of pass volume in Tampa Bay this year, even though I don't have any Tampa Bay guys currently. You can always get Cade Otton, Jalen McMillan later. So Baker's a guy I think I'll entertain here if he gets back to me. Otherwise, it's pretty bleak. I mean, running backs dried up. Might be a day where we take a shot on Keaton Mitchell. Tyron Tracy's a pretty good bet, honestly. So, yeah, we're going to go Baker Mayfield here. Just going to... Oh, week 10 bye. Tragic. Please tell me Mendoza does not have a week 10 bye. Week 13. All right. So, ideally, you don't want to stack your quarterbacks all with the same bye week because then you're going to be left with your pants down on those weeks. Not the biggest deal, but still, I mean, that could be the difference in advancing or not. We've got a 2-3-5-1 right now. Planning on getting a third quarterback. Doing pretty well at running back as far as hanging on and keeping up with things. There will be a couple late shots we take here. Receiver core is looking good. and tight end. 7 picks left. There goes Keaton Mitchell. He's been rising. This is looking like a Tyrone Tracy team. Yeah, you can see the solver likes these guys. He wants Darnold to pair up with JSN, Jalen McMillan on the way back with our newly added Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, those are both strong picks in my mind. Except Darnold. I don't mean that about Darnold. With these quarterbacks, it's pretty unlikely Darnold's going to hit our lineup over both of them, and I don't think it's really necessary to pair Darnold with JSN, just given JSN's massive share of the offense. So Malik Willis is tempting. You don't really need to stack him up with anybody because he's going to be kind of a one-man show, and there's so much uncertainty about who his targets are going to be. All right. Back up on the clock. We're going to pass on Darnold. I think we'll go McMillan here. I like Cooper as well. He might come back around. But we are going to start hurting pretty bad here at running back. I'd prefer not to draft Tyjae Spears. Yeah. This is going to, well, no. You don't necessarily want it to be a big Jonah Coleman team because we've made our bet with RJ Harvey up here already. You generally don't want to bet on multiple running backs out of a backfield just because, they cannibalize each other. So might be a Algier, Bigsby, Dylan Sampson type squad. Maybe pair Sean Tucker with that Bucks bet we're making here. Be happy to get Omar Cooper falling back as well. First round rookie wide receiver. Good strong second half. Likely to happen unless Adonai Mitchell and Kenyon Sadiq are both elite. Can pair him up with that Breece Hall bet on the offense. That could also open us up to a Geno Smith stack later if we miss out on Mendoza. So Cooper's our guy here. I prefer not to draft Jalen Naylor. More of a Trey Tucker guy over Naylor. So Tucker's an option as well, but I'm not going to be forcing Trey Tucker on this team given that we have 6 receivers already. Ideally, I don't like to go over 8 receivers on Underdog, especially when you go RB or receiver somewhat heavy early. It's just not necessary to keep pounding that because you've already made your bet on these guys. So all right. Not loving our options here. Tempted to go Stroud, actually, just because he's a much better bet than the rest, but yeah, I'd rather bet on Stroud than Mendoza. Mendoza's a rookie. He's not going to start every game. And he's a rookie. Rookies tend to struggle. And I do think that Stroud's in a position to bounce back. Not thrilled with that pick. Kind of panicked there. But wasn't a spot where I was going to reach on a running back, even though I might end up having to eventually. But, that's going to happen. Tucker is still available. So now we're not going to go Mendoza since we have our 3 quarterbacks now. Like Boston. Charbonnet, a lot of news on him coming out. People are optimistic he's going to start playing. But I don't really buy it as much. Trey Harris is a good pick. Dalton Schultz, pair up with newly acquired CJ Stroud. But really, we got to get some running backs here. I'd prefer not to save 2 running back picks for the final 2 rounds. Yeah, that Stroud pick was really not good given the options of Geno and Mendoza later. Probably should have just pulled up a running back there, honestly. Would really prefer not to draft Spears, but when a guy falls this much, sometimes you just gotta take him. Gotta take your medicine. See, there goes Sampson, which I do think is a better bet than Spears. There goes Spears. Yeah, running back gets wiped out again before I pick. I'm not going to reach on Kamara, Brian Robinson. Now we've hit handcuff territory, so I'm not going to reach on the first one. I might as well just build up other positions around me. We're going to go Schultz here. Pair him up with Stroud. Schultz is a good value. He's a consistent producer. He's not going to, he's not going to give you 20-point weeks, but we don't need him to. We just need him as a fill-in for when Bowers is out. We will go Brian Robinson here if he does get back. Kind of a premier handcuff who could offer just a little bit of standalone value in the Falcons offense behind Bijan. So now at 3-4-6-2 for this roster, we'll likely add 1 to 2 more running backs. Probably just one more receiver. Unlikely that we add another tight end. So really we're just going to fill out our middle here. The meat of our sandwich, running backs and receivers versus the bread. Our bread is set with quarterback and tight end. A.D. Mitchell falling. Surprising. People love A.D. Mitchell. I'll take him if he gets back. There he goes. Sean Tucker. Arguably the best red zone back on Tampa Bay. That's how they used him last year. They weren't all that excited to bring him back, but did later. So, yeah, the touchdown upside's there. I mean, the Tampa should have a good offense. They're going to throw a lot, I think. They have a good offensive line. Should make a decent amount of red zone trips. Defense isn't very good, especially if Vita Vea gets traded. So, I like to bet on guys with a lot of touchdown upside, especially on half-point underdog versus full-point PPR elsewhere. Kate Otten, they're telling me I could go for Kate Otten because of that stack with Baker Mayfield, Jalen McMillan. I've built out that Tampa Bay bet. But in this situation, I think I'll lean Sean Tucker over Otten. I'll take Otten if he gets back because he can flex in as a receiver. He's a guy who has some decent touchdown upside as well. When Mike Evans has been gone, Kate Otten's done pretty well for himself. So a lot of Tampa Bay fans don't like him. He doesn't have the best hands in the world. But he's kind of another routes style play like Dalton Schultz. Yeah, really I am regretting building out that Texans stack with Stroud and Schultz, knowing the value I can get now with Kate Otten to pair with Baker, but that's all hindsight. And Mendoza was still here and Gino was still here, so really did not handle that well up above. There goes Otten. So we'll probably be sticking with 2 tight ends at this point. Could use one more receiver before we're done here. And this is a spot where Pat Bryant pairs up with our Denver bet here. Bo Nix, Jalen Waddle, and the running back. He's often, you're able to get him in the 18th round quite a bit. because I do like to get Elijah Surratt when I can. Running back bets. Katron is tempting. Kalen Black also tempting. So I think what we're going to do today is we're going to go Pat Bryant because he is our Denver bet. Then on the way back, we'll probably go running back. Because we can't end this thing with 4. Or, we have 5, excuse me. Because it is always tempting to go Elijah Surratt when he's still hanging around. One of my favorite players to draft this year. 18th round, could be big slot, big producer for the Ravens, led college football in touchdowns last year, ran over 2 yards per route run. He could just be a huge advance rate guy, get you to the end. Or get you through the first 14 weeks. So our RB room is somewhat thin. These 3 guys have day 1 roles. But the next 2 you're kind of banking on a little bit of luck. So 6 is probably recommended here. It might be irresponsible to go Surratt, as it's telling me I shouldn't, versus getting a guy like Kalen Black is gone. He is gone. Okay. What do we got here? Give me a good reason to pass on Surratt. Could argue James Conner's a good player to grab right now before he maybe gets cut and signed somewhere else, but they might also not. It could be Trey Benson that gets cut. But I think that's something I will handle when the time gets here. I like to draft these later running backs when we get a little more clarity from training camp. So I'm still treating these drafts as trying to lean into more known commodities at running back early, like the Brian Robinsons. We know he's the clear backup. Sean Tucker, clear goal line back. If they're not using Bucky at the goal line, that is the risk. Sean Tucker could be a 0, but for the sake of this team, we're betting that he is. So I don't feel especially motivated to draft any of these guys back here. Maybe a DJ Giddens as the number 2 in Indy if they have a strong end of the season. But end of the day, give me Surratt, baby. 18th round Surratt. Music to my ears. As you can see, I've drafted him. Only 19% of my Best Ball Mania teams. Surprising. We got to get that up. All right, so we finished this draft here 3-5-8-2. A little bit irregular. A lot of times it'll be 3-6-7-2, 2-6-8-2. Could definitely argue I should have gone 6 running back there, but we lived a little bit today. So, Nix, Baker, Stroud, 3 mid-tier quarterbacks. Breece Hall, R.J. Harvey, Jordan Mason, Brian Robinson, Sean Tucker. We get JSN, Waddle, Jameson Williams, Jordan Tyson, DK Metcalf, Jalen McMillan, Pat Bryant, Elijah Surratt. That's too much. That was too many receivers, but it's a sick receiver room. No doubt about it. Then we rounded out with Brock Bowers and Dalton Schultz. So, what do you think of this team? Does it have a chance? Am I an idiot? Am I smart? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. We're going to rip another best ball draft here. Another BBM. And we're going back in. 91 drafts left. Fill it up. Wonder if we'll have any familiar faces from last draft in here. All right, what do we get? What do we pull? The 1.8. And we look at our exposures here for that range. CMC 6%, Amon-Ra 6%, Jonathan Taylor 12%, CeeDee Lamb 14%, Justin Jefferson 9%. So would kind of like to get my Amon-Ra exposure up. Lions are one of the best offenses with the easiest schedule in the league. Should get some improved coordinator. We'll get last year was rough. I like Drew Petzing here for the Lions, and I think they're going to have a really good year. So this might be Amon-Ra time. But he's starting to go a little bit early. He's gone at the 6, 7 spots. So as you can see, we've been getting a lot of Jonathan Taylor as he's been falling too, because I was drafting him up with McCaffrey when he was going in the 7 spot. And I like Taylor. I do like Taylor. Obviously, he kind of faded down the stretch, but a lot of that had to do with Daniel Jones' injury, and they were clearly just hamstrung by that. I mean, they went out and got Phillip Rivers. So JT, people forget how good he is, I think. I think he's kind of an underappreciated star. I mean, this guy was an elite producer in college, came out, crushed the combine. He's an elite athlete as well, can take a ton of volume. The thing is just pass catching. He's kind of like the new age Nick Chubb. But he actually had a few more receptions than you might have believed last year. Bijan went 4. Interesting. All right, we're going to go Amon-Ra or Taylor here. I do like CeeDee Lamb a lot. I just have a lot of them, 14%. So we'll go whoever falls here. Saquon goes at the 7. Bold move. We're going to go Amon-Ra here. Good day to draft the Sun God. It's party time. I love drafting Lions this year. The only sad part is that Week 17 game against Chicago was outdoors. If that was in the Dome in Detroit, that game would be just a laser show. And it still might be, but I do kind of believe in the Jared Goff can't play outdoors narrative. Because the splits are real. The splits are very real that he does not play as well. All right, let's get our combo analysis out here. Chase Brown, we don't have any Amon-Ra Chase Brown teams yet. This would be a good time to get a little exposure to that. If not, we might just double up and go A.J. Brown. Because I'm not an H-N guy, not a Derrick Henry guy. Chase Brown goes. Yeah, we're going to go A.J. Brown here. Derrick Henry's a tough click for me this year. He's just getting old. Ravens' offensive line is not. He's probably going to take a little step back this year. First-year coordinator. I do like Declan Doyle, but wheels are going to fall off at some point here, and it's going to be bad when he doesn't because he's not a pass catcher either. So, A.J. Brown, you can see a huge season for him. There's a ton of upside with A.J. Brown. Sets us up to get a Drake May team as well. It's always a good day to draft Drake May. All that guy does is win you money. Look at Brock Bowers, still on the board. Getting back to the Chase drafter at 2. See, now that's the Chase Bowers pairing. That's more common than a Bijan Bowers pairing, and that's why I like to live with how ADP rolls out at the beginning, because this pairing is more common than the Bijan Bowers pairing. So. Then he goes Love on the way back. See, here's where Neighbors is at. Immediately catapults up to the 2-3 turn. I didn't do a great job with the Neighbors situation. I should have drafted more of him. I was banking on him hitting the pup because things seemed bad. The cleanup. But there was never any news that things were going poorly. It was more so just the video that people overreacted to with that softball where he's running down the baseline just jogging. So, yeah, that was poorly played, especially for a guy like me who loves Malik Neighbors. But I don't like to draft injury guys necessarily who come into the year just because their ability isn't where they're not at 100%, even if they're back to play, and it takes a while to get that all the way back. So I'd like to go Kyron here after the 2 wide receivers start. If I don't get Kyron, I'm going to go Ibuka, and Ibuka goes. Big fan of Ibuka this year, but we got to go Kyron Williams over Zay Flowers. I mean, Kyron Williams is going to double Zay Flowers' touchdowns, could even quadruple it if Zay Flowers goes for 4 touchdowns, because Flowers has not historically been a big touchdown guy. And, I mean, touchdowns always and forever will be the key to fantasy football. Rams have one of the best offenses in the league. Maybe they don't target Adams as much at the goal line this year if Adams really takes a step back again. But Kyron's just a guy that there's going to be a lot of running, a lot of rush volume, good receiver out of the backfield, a lot of touchdown upside. So, like I said, I want to bank on good teams. And here we go. We're betting on the Rams, the Lions, and the Patriots this year. 3 of the best offenses in the league. So, good start here. I like where we're going. Probably going to add another receiver here. I tend to avoid the Javonte, Etienne, Jacobs types. If I had to pick one out of them, I'd go Etienne, given the good offensive environment there. High-paced, high-volume offense. But looking at Garrett Wilson here, if we can get him. Not opposed to McMillan either, but Bryce Young and the high or the low pass volume offense, they're trying to hide Bryce Young. They don't really let him rip it, and they take Tet. Thank you. Garrett Wilson, come on down. Mid-4th round, Garrett Wilson. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. All right, let's check in on these other teams here. Anyone doing anything crazy? Nothing crazy here. This guy's going with a RB heavy start. Taylor, Hampton, Zay Flowers, Javonte. All right, 6 picks away. We're setting up pretty nicely here if we can get Jameson, Tootin, Judkins to fall, even a Bucky Irving. Tootin's probably not getting back to us here. He's been a hot commodity lately. Although a lot of these guys have started heavy at running back, but also wouldn't mind getting a little Travion Henderson exposure, given we've made a bet on the Patriots offense with A.J. Brown. But half PPR Travion Henderson, not as enticing as full PPR platforms. All right, 3 spots to go, 4 available running backs. Would be all right with all of them. Prefer to get my Bucky exposure in the 6th round, but that seems like it's not as common anymore now that there's been some positive news around his injury. A Dunze goes. Oh my goodness. Bashal Tootin, come on down. My goodness, 3 picks past ADP. Good day. I mean, you don't see Tootin in the mid to late 5th round like that anymore. You just don't. So, really like how we're starting out this team. Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Kyron Williams, Garrett Wilson, Bashal Tootin. A lot of touchdown upside between 2 of the best offenses in the league here, Rams and Jags. Then you got just high-quality receiver talent. Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Looking good. Good start here. And this is a situation where Drake May is very likely to come back to us here. Want to pair that up with A.J. Brown. If we're betting on A.J. Brown, we're betting on Drake May. So people generally stay in their lanes on Underdog as well. People won't usually draft a quarterback naked unless they're way past ADP. So it seems likely we're going to get him. Yep, we're going to take May here. A.J. Brown gets the best quarterback of his career. Drake May gets a real weapon to throw to. I mean, what Drake May did last year, almost winning MVP with, just throwing to scrubs all season long. Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams. What are we doing? All right, good start here. So we'll be good on quarterback here for a while. We'll see if Goff gets back around to us or Geno Smith late. Long way to go, though, of course. Let's head back to the room, see if anything crazy's going on here. Brian Thomas at the 6-1. Not a fan of that, especially over Parker Washington. Parker Washington's set up way better to have a lot more production than Brian Thomas. You're banking on a big touchdown season from Brian Thomas if you think he's going to outproduce Parker Washington. So, and that's not something I'm going to do. Parker Washington's my guy in Jacksonville if you're betting on a receiver this year. All right, 6 picks away here. See Ramondre is coming back to us. Left practice early a couple days ago. I think he was just throwing up on the field, so I don't think there was any injury news. Yeah, he's practiced again on Thursday, so that was much to do about nothing. He fell in a lot of drafts, and I swooped him up. So yeah, here we're looking at Lemon and Ramondre. If either of them get back to us here, that'd be great. He's got 3 running backs already. Seems unlikely that he'd go Ramondre. Goes Kraft, so Ramondre's there for us. I'm a little tempted to keep adding to the receiver room with a Jaden Reed. But tough to pass up when you're building out the bet on the offense. Ramondre Stevenson's a good bet to score a lot of touchdowns this year. Did a lot of good work in the receiving game last year, too. So I think Ramondre's a rock-solid pick. And now we can kind of chill on running backs for a while here. Kyron, Tootin, Ramondre. We've made our bets at running back. Now we'll load up on receivers and tight ends. Might even get one of these receivers to come back to us here, Sutton or Reed. I'm Reed over Sutton for sure. Addison and Godwin. Certainly like those guys a lot less than Reed and Sutton. There goes Reed. Sutton's just a kind of a touchdown bet. There he goes too. Prefer not to draft Jordan Addison here. Sometimes you just got to do it. Yeah, we'll go Addison. Not super inspiring, but, talented player. Vikings offense is going to bounce back. It all kind of depends on the role. He could be more of your clear-out guy, whereas Jawan Jennings might be more productive in the short to intermediate range. Not sure he's a great pairing with Kyler Murray. But he's been productive. He's scored plenty of touchdowns, betting on a bounce back from a Kevin O'Connell offense. The Vikings could be drastically better this year, or they could be just moderately better and kind of get back into mid-range offense territory. Whereas in the past, the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell's offenses have been top 10. So it's more of an upside bet here on the talent and potential for the offense, but. Kind of want to just one of those eat your vegetables, get your ADP, get your exposure there. So, as your 4th receiver, definitely not bad. We'll see what comes back here. I thought about pulling up Michael Pittman there, all the way up, but also a shot he can just come back to you. If not, we'll be looking at tight end here. Harold Fan and Kyle Pitts, both pretty solid bets there at tight end, especially with the tier break afterwards. You hit the Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, the aging tiers, then you got Kincaid, always banged up, Isaiah Likely overpriced, Ferguson just a guy. So yeah, let's get a good tight end here. A lot of tight ends these teams already have, so should be able to get one of the two. Corum swallowing here. Unfortunately, I wouldn't pair Corum with Kyron. I don't think that would be a good bet to make on the same team, even though I do think they could both pay off at ADP, at their respective ADPs. But when you're looking for upside, especially at the end, you don't want to bank on two guys on the same team cannibalizing each other's scores in the playoffs. So I'm going to avoid that there. Jonathan Brooks, kind of a tempting pick here as well. Fannin hanging on there. So, but also Pittman. We might keep kicking tight end down the road here. See if he comes back. The turn though, both these guys could use tight ends. So maybe I'd be better off banking on. There goes Pittman. All right. Nope, let's just go Fannin here. Bet on talent. Bet on talent with Fannin. Best player available at a position of need. If we don't get these running backs like Brooks to come back, that's just fine. Might look at Kyler on the way back to pair him up with Addison. But really Goff is the way I'd want to play it. Even with Kyler rushing, I think I'd rather bet on Jared Goff and just the overall upside of that offense. All right, we got our pick of the stack here. I think I'd prefer to go Goff here just because he's with Amon-Ra. We're betting on big season from Amon-Ra, so we want to bet on a big year from Goff as well. Whereas Addison's more of your secondary piece. I mean, he's not. Amon-Ra's a pillar of this team versus Addison's kind of a contribute when you can type. So we want to keep building out the bet on our biggest bet, if that makes sense, versus more of a ancillary player. And heck, if Kyler gets all the way back, sometimes he has a tendency to fall. He'll probably get taken by the Jefferson drafter here. Although, no, Jefferson drafter chose to go naked Jordan Love. Oh, no, never mind. He has Jaden Reed. So this guy seems likely to go Kyler here since he doesn't have a quarterback. He's got two shots at him, so yeah, unlikely he gets back here. I think we're probably going to look back into receiver. Good range. I like some of these. I like Concepcion, like Jaden Higgins. Not a big fan of the running backs here. Yep. The quarterbackless drafter goes with Kyler. All right, 5 picks away here. Aaron Jones, we will not be taking if he gets back to us. Aaron Jones is kind of off my board at this point. Taking him a little bit, but it's time to be done. Yeah, a lot of receivers going in this range has not left us many good picks at receiver. So, we have 4 solid guys. Might be where we lean into some receiver-heavy endings here in this draft, but try and just keep our wits here and not pick bad players. Dalton Kincaid's a little bit tempting. I'd consider he has a high weekly upside given the offense he plays in. A lot better than likely. Not a big Shaheed guy, really. So I think Kincaid's going to be our pick here. Yeah, we'll see if we can get one of these backs on the way back. Tyrone Tracy or Keaton Mitchell, like the upside with both those guys. 8 picks away. Yeah, we'll be cutting it close. This seems like a range where guys want to get their 3rd and 4th running backs with there's only a handful of guys left here that have reasonable day 1 roles. So people like to feel warm and fuzzy at running back. They like to feel safe. I have a big monologue on this whole psychology of the market right now coming out in my draft guide that'll be out soon. It talks about how the landscape shifted to, we were in the peak frenzy mode of 0 RB drafters, wide receiver heavy starts. And then we got hit with receiver injuries over running back injuries the past 2 years. So the market's reeling. They're confused and hurt. So they want to get their running backs so they're not embarrassed in front of their friends. All right, we're going to go Tyrone Tracy here. I like taking Tracy a lot more than Scatabo. Considering both of their prices. They're going to split work. A lot of what Scatabo did last year was without Tracy in the picture. And yeah, Scatabo is a far better player, and everyone loves him, but Tracy in the 12th is a really nice value. Going to give you some baseline value, and then obviously contingent upside if Scatabo gets hurt. Scatabo's coming off an injury as well, so he's not going to be quite as efficient this year. I don't think he's back to full strength as much as people would like to believe. So, yeah, Tracy's a kind of a boring better and best ball style pick. Probably won't see me drafting him a whole lot in redraft. All right, we're still sitting at 4 receivers. Would be nice to get Cooper here. Like the bet on Cooper, going pretty late for a first-round receiver. Hunter Henry would be a nice addition that would round out our receiver room. One of the top targets for the Pats. We're betting that the Pats are going to go nuclear this year with Drake May, Ramondre Stevenson, A.J. Brown. We'll throw the tight end in there too. Is Jonah Coleman still available? He is. Love me some Jonah Coleman. We might try to get him in the 14th round. Swing him around the bend here after we go receiver or tight end here at the turn. Omar Cooper is kind of one of those guys that always gets drafted a few picks before you're up. There he is. Just kind of hard to get sometimes. Kind of like Chigakonkwo. That guy is hard to get as well whenever you're trying to get him. Just seemingly always goes a pick or two before you need him. So we're going to... Oh, there goes Henry too. Breaking my heart. Breaking my heart. Going to go Denzel Boston here. Similar bet to Omar Cooper. Looked good in the spring. Good prospect. I think people were a little too hard on him. So we're going to go Cooper here. Seems... we might not get Coleman on the way back, but that's not as necessary as a receiver is with that upside of Boston, in my opinion, at this point. So feel good about going Boston there. Naylor I mean, Boston is just so much better of a player than Naylor. Same with Trey Tucker. Similarly bad offenses, but probably a better coordinator, Clint Kubiak, than Todd Monken, but we move. Really like the upside with Jonah Coleman. Also, Trey Harris would be nice if we miss out on Coleman. Trey Harris has a ton of upside. Much prefer drafting Trey Harris to Quentin Johnston. I think that's just an easy fade, easy arbitrage play. Still betting on the same offense, and you're betting on probably a better player in Trey Harris over Quentin Johnston. I mean, Quentin Johnston's struggles have been well documented, which makes me tempted to just lean into Trey Harris here over Jonah Coleman if both get back. But Jonah Coleman's upside is pretty high as well. Trey Harris goes. Give me Coleman. Coleman, Denver, matches up with our Week 17 against the Pats. So telling ourselves a story here. We make it to the end. We have all our Pats bets. Jonah Coleman is the lead running back now after J.K. Dobbins goes down for the rest of the year with injury. Not hard to see. Jonah Coleman, also a good 3-down skill set. Good pass blocker, good receiver, highly productive in college. I think Jonah Coleman was slept on during the draft process, especially because he didn't test. He probably wasn't going to test that well, which is not good. You want your running backs to test well, because athleticism, especially size adjusted athleticism, that correlates with production. So Coleman's more your thumper. I mean, I see a lot of touchdown upside with Coleman as well. You ask, are they going to use R.J. Harvey more at the goal line or Jonah Coleman? Pretty easily Jonah Coleman. So, yeah, that's the idea with Coleman. He is slightly expensive. I mean, yeah, he is expensive for a third-string running back, but it's rational because Dobbins can't finish a season, and R.J. Harvey had an uneven rookie year, so that's why he's priced up. But I'm happy to pay it. I'm happy to pay that price. I have a decent bit of Jonah Coleman. Because otherwise, you look at your other bets, you go, what else am I going to do? Draft a pure handcuff on a worse offense too. Broncos should be one of the best offenses, great offensive line, going to move the ball. So, big fan of Jonah Coleman. Have a lot of them in pre-draft best ball as well. I think he was a top 3 exposure. It was Coleman, Surratt, and Emmett Johnson in pre-draft best ball. Looking at Jerry Jeudy here. You don't really like to have 2 Browns on the same team, but I do think it's valuable. I do think Judy's just very undervalued right now. He's going to run a ton of routes. Just had a really bad year last year. I think we'll see some improvement. But A.D. Mitchell does have more upside, actually, so he goes. Doesn't matter. Antonio Williams is a decent bet, but not as good as Jerry Jeudy because he hasn't won that role yet in Washington. He very well could. Would probably expect him to, but Jeudy goes as well. We still just have, we do have 2 quarterbacks. 2-5-5-2 right now. Probably lining up to where I will take this upside bet on Antonio Williams, so long as nothing else is sticking out drastically. Do like Terrence Ferguson as an upside bet, but given our 2 tight ends, I don't think that's necessary right now. I think I'd rather focus on getting a receiver. All right, we're at 2-5-6-2. Probably good on running back for this team. I don't think I'll draft another unless something really sticks out to me. Probably good on tight end too. Might take one more. Otherwise, from here we're pretty balanced. So it's almost like luxury picks at this point. This is where I might go pull up a favorite, such as Elijah Surratt, such as Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant correlates with our Pats versus Broncos bet we're going to make. So could just go 2-5-8-2 here, Pat Bryant and Elijah Surratt. But you also don't want to be too overweight on your back end bets. Every team, I might have every team with Surratt and Pat Bryant, but so even Keishon Boutte, I mean, he's looked all right as well. That might be worth something when you're making your bet on the Pats. So let's go. Well, they're telling me Geno Smith. We're gonna go Geno just because I didn't make up my mind. I don't really like that pick, but does build out our bet that we made with the Giants or with the Jets. Excuse me, Garrett Wilson. So it could come in handy come playoff time. Maybe they have a blow-up week 17 matchup with Jordan Addison and the Vikings. So, not the worst pick in the world, but it's fine. So we'll go Pat Bryant or Surratt here. We'll probably go Pat Bryant just based on the correlation we have with the offense in the Week 17. Surratt's still speculative. He hasn't earned the role yet. They still took Jacoby Lane in the 3rd round and Surratt in the 4th. So there's certainly a risk for zeros here, where I think there's less risk with Pat Bryant, but I think both are both great picks at the end of drafts. And that's why it's not the worst thing in the world if you get to the end of drafts and you only have 5 receivers, you can easily tack on 2 at the end. Pat Bryant, Surratt, Skyler Bell, some of these other guys that are going to pop up during training camp. Yeah, they're telling me I need a 5th running back, but I disagree. I'm not going to do it. All right, we're going to go Pat Bryant here. In the 17th. Could consider going a 3rd tight end here as well. Colby Parkinson, namely. Not especially interested in making these types of bets if I don't have to yet. I definitely do like Emmett Johnson and Katron Allen as late round dart throws, but with 5 running backs already that I feel pretty good about, I'm not really going to force that until later in camp when these roles have been a little bit more crystallized. Shoot, there goes Surratt. Bummer. Heck, I might even go Keenan Allen here. Likely going to sign with the Colts. He'll be moving up in ADP, but man, he is old. So, I mean, how much is CLV worth when he moves up a few rounds at the end of drafts? I mean, it's really not as much as you might think, but it could be fun. Guy had 700 receiving yards last year. I mean, dude was on a tear. So, maybe we'll live a little bit. We'll go Keenan Allen. All right, that'll do it. That'll do it for this draft. How do we feel about this tight end room here? Fannin and Kincaid. Do you think that'll get me there? Otherwise, I feel pretty good about this receiver room. Very strong. Top 3 guys. Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson. We got Addison, Boston, Antonio Williams, Pat Bryant, and Keenan Allen. Maybe one receiver too many. You could argue I should have taken Colby Parkinson over Keenan Allen there, or anywhere throughout. I should have gotten off the path and added another tight end. But in general, I think we're doing just fine. Running back room, Kyron Williams, Bashal Tootin. Love that. Ramondre, Tyrone Tracy, Jonah Coleman. Can see a path for all these guys. Quarterback, Drake May, Jared Goff, Geno Smith. So this is a pretty well-balanced and clean team, I would say. I think it's hard to argue that I did a poor job. There were moments that maybe I'd like back, but in general, just another addition to the portfolio, and one that that you can dream on for sure. All right, and that will do it for today. I'm going to go eat some lunch. I'm hungry. 1 o'clock here Central Time. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.